It's Friday, July 15, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 22 of Two Guys on Politics, broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania with co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski. In today's episode of our video podcast, we discuss a number of topics. The sudden, shocking, and surprising passing of Senator Lindsey Graham, his politics and responses, and what impact that has on politics. We'll also talk about the Iran war and the economy, which I think Bill agrees is struggling a little bit. But we'll talk about some of the issues that the White House and the president has made about the economy and the war. In our second segment, we're going to talk a little bit about IllAmerican Water and utility companies and the monopoly that they have over their services and how it doesn't seem like they care about the people they serve. And we'll end it with a look at the politics shenanigans taking place in the 4th Congressional District with Congressman Jesus Garcia doing everything he can to benefit his chief of staff, who he is supported to succeed him in that last minute trick to keep everybody out of the election. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be on with Bill Lipinski, and we'll talk about all these issues. We'll be right back right after these messages. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and the next voice you hear will not be the voice of America. But nevertheless, he is a very good friend of mine, Mr. Ray Hanania.
You're a good guy, Bill. Longtime congressman, former Chicago alderman, and Democratic Committeeman. Nobody has better insight on Chicagoland and Illinois and even national politics than you do, Bill. And you're very tolerant, too, of minority views like mine and others. So I appreciate it. I just want you to know that.
Well, I'm glad you do appreciate it, because it is very difficult at times.
So you knew Senator Lindsey Graham, did you not?
I served with him in the House of Representatives for 4 years. That's long before he became famous. But I liked him. I got along with him very well. He was really a very friendly guy. He came to the House of Representatives with the plan to get involved in controversies and try to help solve the problem, try to help out America. And I think he continued that when he went to the Senate. Now, he had very strong views. I'm sure most of the views that he had were not exactly ones that you would jump up and down and support, because he was very supportive of Israel. And it seems like he was very supportive of Bibi Netanyahu, who I have problems with also. But I think he tried to do the best he could for his country and for his state, and I liked him. I'm sure you heard the rumors that existed about him for years and years, and I always felt that was irrelevant, because he did a job that I thought had to be done by some people in the Senate, and that job was to cross party lines and try to solve problems.
Yeah, I always liked Lindsey Graham when he was a member of the House and then later as the Senate. In the beginning, and it's not about personality and people. I mean, I don't care what his personal life is. And yeah, I've heard all those rumors also. Although, as an aside, I think it's kind of hypocritical that we make an issue about things like that, but we don't talk about it in some cases. Now, I'm
And
not
ironically, I just want to say, I think it's a mistake also that people do that. I think it's wrong that people do it. But I have found on researching this issue, it is more the people that resent him not,
Yes.
as far as they're concerned, coming out and being truthful about the situation. Those are the ones who create more problems for individuals such as him. And I think that's a terrible mistake.
So all these rumors and stuff, I agree with you, are, his critics are going to make a big deal out of it and his supporters won't. But that's pretty normal with any kind of criticism, right? I mean, people like you, they're gonna ignore
Absolutely.
criticism, and if they don't like you, they're gonna push it. And I just want to say something about Lindsey Graham. I don't like I always hesitate to criticize someone when they pass. I don't, it's sad that he passed away, and it was surprising. So I don't want people to think that if we talk about his politics, whether I agree or not, it has anything to do with him personally. I mean, obviously, I wish he had better health and he lived, and it was kind of a shock. Who was the other congressman or senator that they were talking about that disappeared for like Mitch McConnell? He disappeared for like 4 to 6 weeks. He's the one I was worried about. And then Lindsey Graham just up and passes away like that. That was really a surprise to everybody.
Well, I guess he's had a heart situation for quite a long time, but no one ever revealed it. No one ever thought about it. And they say that he had a aorta that broke, and that's what caused his death. But it came on him because of his heart condition for a number of years, but no one ever knew it.
Yeah, and listen, as far as his politics, and I agreed. There was at a time when I'm a conservative Democrat. I mean, we live in a state that's pretty much Democratic, and where my family, as we've talked about before, we're really Republican. I mean, they were always Republican, and we became Democrats because the Republican Party just disintegrated in Northern Illinois and is disintegrating towards Southern Illinois in a wave there too. So, you have no choice but to become a Democrat. So I'm a conservative Democrat like you, I think, Reagan Democrats, we call
I agree.
ourselves. And somebody like, Lindsey Graham, he was a very smart guy. The guy he's in office for I don't know how many terms because of his intelligence and his brains and his record. But in recent years, I got to say that he really has taken a turn for the worse. And it started with Trump. Because the thing about that I have that is really kind of ironic is his flip-flopping on Trump. The things that he said about Trump before the election, warning that I think he warned Republicans that nominating Trump for president was like, quote, being shot in the head. And in 2016, it was Graham who fiercely attacked Donald Trump, describing him as, quote, unfit for office and calling him. Now, this is the part that I think you can't just erase. A race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. These are like Marco Rubio's, calling Trump a con man. And then after Trump wins, they completely ignore what I thought was genuine criticism and work with the guy for their own personal benefit. That's the kind of thing that bothered me the most.
The
And
hypocrisy.
yeah, it's the hypocrisy of the length of a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. That's way beyond saying someone's a bad politician, right?
Yes, but I don't think you should equate Marco Rubio's posture with Trump with the same posture that Lindsey
Mhm.
Graham had. Marco Rubio's criticism was much, much more mild
Well,
than
yeah, it was
Graham.
mild. He was tame. He definitely was tame. He said that he was
That
a
just goes to show you that Lindsey Graham,
Mhm.
in the end, was really much more interested in power. And when you're in the U.S. Senate,
Yes,
how do you
yes.
get more power? By being close to the president. And he took advantage of the president's, one of his many fables, that someone who's against him and then comes and turns for him. Oh, he thinks he's just fantastic. They got to be golfing buddies, dinner buddies. So Lindsey got what he wanted, the ear of the president, the ability to influence the president, and the ability to play a role in so many international affairs. I don't agree with that. I would never do it, but to each his own.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, certainly I don't believe you ever would do that too. I mean, there is a way to get the president's respect and attention
Absolutely.
without just flip-flopping the way Lindsey Graham did. He could have come up with some ideas and convinced the president you need to do this without calling him names. See, I viewed that as name calling. And name calling is something that some politicians resort to when they can't address the issues. And I think that for that reflected Lindsey Graham's shock that this outsider, who was a Democrat, Donald Trump, suddenly was taking over the Republican Party, or at the time was threatening to take over the Republican Party by being in the Republican presidential primary, and eventually did take over. And to me, that was a flaw that Lindsey Graham had. Instead of going down the right road that he did for many years, maybe at age or whatever it got to him or whatever it was, he really kind of resorted to something that I disagree with. And it's the one thing that I criticize him about when he addresses the Middle East politics. I don't think he's really addressing the facts of the Middle East conflict. He's addressing the personality he was addressing the personality of the Middle East conflict. And that's what bothers me. I think that's hypocritical. He's not supporting Israel because it's a factual basis. He's supporting Israel because it's a personal thing with him. And I think that he's put that interest, he did at the time anyway, above the interest of his responsibility to the American people. That's my big criticism of him. And like I said, I'm sorry he passed away. I would love to have had a debate with him to bring him on here and talk to him about things like that. But I think he felt he was way above, the American people, given all the time that he spent in the House and then the length in the Senate.
Now, when do I get an opportunity to rebut this in behalf of BB
Yeah,
Netanyahu?
you're like a typical Republican, Bill. When someone says something, you go, "Oh, I'm dominating and control." I'm not dominating. We're having a discussion here. I just gave you my opinion, and
I
I
know how.
listened to you. So go ahead, Bill. I want to hear what your response is in defense of.
Here's the first thing I want to say to you. If Lindsey Graham had ever said those things about you,
Mhm.
and you were in a position to do something for him or be his friend, do you think you would have been capable of doing that?
You mean like if he criticized me and then I turned around and became his friend?
Yeah, do you think you could do that?
I
If
would
he
have a hard
criticized
time
you,
because
if
I would have a hard time, honestly, Bill. Because
I,
I wouldn't trust somebody if Bill, if I said you were a terrible politician, you were a crook, blah blah blah, or whatever, and then we became friends because I needed your friendship, would you? I mean, would you accept that type of
no,
friendship yourself? Yeah.
but and if Lindsey Graham had said that about me, what he said about Trump, no, I could never forgive him. That was totally beyond the pale.
Yeah.
If he simply said, I don't like the guy, I disagree with him in the position he takes on issues, I'm not going to support him. Fine, okay. Then we can reconcile. You know,
Right.
both sides want to reconcile, but not when he said things like that. Now, on the other hand, I personally think that he did a lot of good for this country, and he was on the right side on vast majority of the issues. You and I would disagree upon that. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. I'll let it go. It may be fine, but we have to somehow find people who can work both sides, who can listen to both sides, and make objective evaluations of situations without resorting to outlandish charges that he made against Trump. That's really what I'm saying.
Well, I think rather than putting it on the people responding to Lindsey Graham's outrageous charges. How about put it on people like Lindsey Graham? Because instead of saying those things, I agree with you. I didn't agree with that stuff. I mean, maybe I do agree with it, but the real issue is the one that impacts the voters. Why didn't he just say that if you elect Trump, he's not a real Republican? He's going to lead the Republican down the tubes and into turmoil, and he may personalize this into a reality TV show that is not good for America. I could have lived with that criticism, and I think that that's what prompted Lindsey Graham's personal comments about him about being, xenophobic, religious bigot, race baiting bigot. That really takes it to an extreme, in my opinion.
Would you like to read that again? I'm not so
Yeah.
sure the people got that. It's only the fourth or fifth time you managed to do it.
Well,
Now,
he said it.
I,
What am I?
I
I
don't,
didn't say it. He
somehow
said it.
you said something about the people. I'm not blaming the people at all. I blame Lindsey Graham for saying those kind of
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And I think it was wrong, and I'm very sorry about it. But even a person who can say some despicable things like that, I believe, can still do some good for their country and for their state.
Well, don't we have a right to criticize our elected officials? I mean, isn't criticism part of the foundation of democracy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he should, I mean, and so why take criticism to an extreme like that, is what I'm saying. You could criticize somebody, you and I could
Yeah,
criticize
well,
each other and be friends and still disagree on issues. But I would never criticize you personally because it would be disrespectful, not just to you, but to what I represent, to go to that level.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and
And,
and I think that's what he did.
I would never criticize you on personal grounds because I
Right. No,
like
I know that.
you're a friend of mine. Now, I will criticize you strongly when I disagree with you on a particular issue. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it should be. And that's the
Yes.
way politics once upon a time were, but they no longer are. And somehow we want to find a way to get past that. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about his sister being appointed to his position?
Well, I mean, that usually is a typical political thing that we see happen. A relative is appointed. I'm not sure because it's a celebrity appointment. The husband, the one, what was he, congressman down in Detroit, the wife ended up taking his place, and she ended up doing really well. But sometimes these wives, I mean, you know, your wife was very involved in politics when you were an alderman and also a congressman. Um, if God forbid something happened to you, Bill, and they had appointed Rosemarie at the time to take your place, I would have said, you know what? She has the experience and the knowledge to do that based on her involvement in it. I don't know enough about Lindsey Graham's wife to know, was she involved or is it just
That
a
was his,
placeholder?
that was his sister. She's
I'm
involved.
sorry, sister.
She's involved in state government, but she also acted sort of as a liaison between his office and the state. Now she's only been appointed for his unexpired term,
Right.
and I believe that she has said she's not going to run for a full 6 year term. I frankly don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever. Now, the
Right.
woman I think you're talking about in Michigan is Debbie Dingell.
Yes, that's who it
John
was.
Dingell, yeah. Well, Debbie
Yes.
Dingell was her husband's chief of staff for about 25 years.
She
And
was really involved, right?
she was chief of staff for at least 10 years before the two of them got married. I know Debbie Dingell. Uh, I like her. Uh, I think she's very well qualified for the job. And I get along with John Dingell very well.
Yes.
He could be a very arrogant SOB, but he was of Polish heritage and he liked people of Polish heritage. So he never had a problem with me.
Well,
Facts.
they call that type of appointment as chief of staff nepotism. Okay, and nepotism does have some basis in terms of being legitimate criticism, but I agree with you. She turned out to be a great congresswoman, and I see her being a good leader. And a lot of times things turn out well, sometimes they don't. with the sister of Senator Lindsey Graham. I don't know her. And I agree that I think they just want to put her name up there. Is her last name the same?
Yes.
Or so she wasn't married, or she still
No, I
goes
think
by
she is married, but I think she uses her
the Graham
his
name?
name as her middle name.
Yeah, so it's a way of
The thing,
continuing his popularity, I think, right, in
well,
political
I
base
think it's a way of
power.
simply holding the seat, and the
Yes,
governor doesn't have to make a decision on who he's going to support in the general election for the 6-year term. That
right.
way, whoever wins it, he can be friendly with.
Now,
Okay.
I don't have the name of the Democrat who was running against him, but I did see the numbers, and she came pretty close in terms of voter turnout in the Democratic primary, similar to what Lindsey Graham got in his Republican primary. I think there were like 20,000 votes difference between the two, and to me that was a little surprising. With him gone, it looks like she has a shot, at really kind of taking that seat away.
I I wouldn't put any, but I wouldn't put any money on it. She had a very competitive race to win the nomination. Nobody ran
Mhm.
against Lindsey Graham.
I
So
think
there's
it's
really no competition, against him, where there was a lot of competition against her. But I want to get back to nepotism just for a minute. How
sure. Go ahead.
hypocritical people can be in politics.
Yes.
The Democrats so often today get so upset and they talk about nepotism. To me, the greatest act of nepotism in the history of the United States of America was when St. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, appointed his brother Bobby Attorney General. Right. Right. Yes. Uh-huh. I mean,
Yes. And listen, wasn't it the late Mayor Richard J. Daley that said that if you can't appoint your son, who can you appoint, or something to that effect when he
he
was
said,
mayor?
if you can't help your sons, who can you help?
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, nepotism is just a label.
Right.
And there's variety in nepotism, justified and legitimate nepotism. I don't think, like if I am a journalist, my son wanted to get in communications. That's kind of a form of nepotism. I think
Yes,
it's great that he wanted to do what I wanted to do.
I agree.
And if you're in politics and your son wanted to be like you, there's nothing absolutely wrong with it whatsoever. It's just that in some circumstances where they push aside everybody to put people in, that's when nepotism becomes a problem. And I don't know if there are examples of that with Lindsey Graham or not. So I don't see that, but I just pointed out that that's what they would call it. By the way, that woman that I was talking about, the Democratic candidate, is Charleston pediatrician Dr. Annie Andrews. And I was
Yes.
going to ask you, you're right. I mean, if Lindsey Graham were alive today and she were in the race in November against him, Lindsey Graham would definitely win that seat. Now
Correct.
that he's gone, though, doesn't it elevate the chances that she could win and take that seat?
Yeah, yes, it does, Ray, but it's a very, very Republican state.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do not see. Well, now, if the Republicans nominate for the full 6-year term some wacko, well,
Right.
then she's got a shot. But if they nominate a normal Republican candidate who supports normal Republican principles, no, I believe the Republican will win and win in a walk.
Yeah, and one of the problems is with a sudden death like this is that in a sudden death, you know, there's no planning, so it's like up for grabs. Anybody could
True.
become the candidate, including a weak candidate. But if he were planning to step down, I think that there might have been some more thought given to who was going to take his place. And I would say, yeah, he's probably whoever takes his place is going to hold that seat. I just think that she has a chance this time, Annie Andrews, given the mood of the country against the Trump Republicans and what he's done. I think it's a much
That's
deeper wound than is being that Trump is trying to respond to it, saying it's not that bad. We'll be okay. But I think it's terrible. I think it's really bad. It's going to hurt him.
Well, he's going to turn all that around tomorrow night He's given his big speech how the election was stolen from him.
Yeah,
Remember?
I think that's going to, don't you think that's just going to fuel more concern about him if that's what he's going to use the time to talk about?
Oh, absolutely. But he wants to do that for two reasons. One, he loves telling everybody that race was stolen from him. It may be one of his last chances to do so. And number two, he's gonna hit his fellow Republicans very hard for not passing, that Freedom for America or something like that
Right.
with the voting.
Which
Now,
is why he then blocked that housing bill that everybody
well, it's gone into
supported,
effect
and
now.
then it went into effect because he didn't veto it.
But
But
when the Republicans, well, when Trump says 80% of Americans agree with that legislation, 80% of Americans, I think, agree with you got to show that you're an American citizen to vote.
yeah,
But there's a lot of other stuff in that bill that
yeah,
people are not going to agree with. But once
yeah.
again, Trump can slant things the way he wants to slant it. But it'll be interesting. Getting back to a Senate race for a minute, I think that Senate race in Michigan is going to be a very, very interesting race. Uh,
Abdul Syed El Sayed.
yeah, I think that he's a very smart guy. He's already backing off from really being associated with the Democratic Socialists. He says, I was
Right,
never a Democratic Socialist. I'm
right.
just a Democrat. That's all. I agree with some of the things that they want, but there's a lot of the things I don't agree with them on. I think he's got a real shot in Michigan. He's got the United Auto Workers Union backing him in Michigan. And that's probably the most powerful entity in
Yes,
Michigan you could have.
yes, and he is really running against both parties
Yes.
because he is I think a good candidate. He's a smart person. I think he can do it. My problem with Abdul El Sayed, not just because I believe he's Egyptian. I think I'm not quite sure of his ethnic background, but he's Arab American. I met him one time. He seems like a very smart guy. He just doesn't understand media, and he's being dragged, by the media in the media headlines, not because of strategic planning on his part, but because the media sees him as the alternative to the ugly Republican side that they're portraying in elections around the country. Most of his media is on social media, and social media is great for your your choir, the people who already support you. And you could see some of his social media, but he's not doing enough to articulate in the mainstream media, in my opinion, the issues that he stands for, that he's advocating for. I think he could do a better job. And I think that's a flaw that is inherent in Arab culture, that they don't, we come from a world that's tyrannical and free speech is suppressed. Dictators run everything. So it's in his genes not to respect the media enough to use it to strategize. I think that's his one flaw that's going to hurt him, in my opinion.
Well, he certainly, when the media says something about what he supports, he certainly comes back very strong against the news media if he does not take that position. And I'm quite sure that antagonizes the news media to ask him even tougher questions. I don't know, is he Muslim or is he just Arab?
Muslim. He is Muslim. And that's my
He is?
understanding.
Okay.
Yes. And like I said, he's a smart guy. He's a very smart guy. I think he's probably got a decent chance. But
A doctor,
but I
right?
think it's mostly because of the trend in favor of Democrats over Republicans. And prior to Trump, he never would have had an opportunity to get to the level that he's at, in my opinion,
Is he a
given
medical
his
doctor?
background. Yes, he is. Yes.
Oh,
So he is a good guy. All right, we got a couple minutes if you want to. What the nice thing was, we've avoided, talking about Trump dominating the conversation
Yes,
with
thank
Trump.
God.
It's hard. Yes, it is. And it's hard to not talk about Trump given the way he pushes himself in front of us as he's going to be doing in this speech he's planning to make. I wonder how many TV stations are going to cover it, which ones are not going to cover it. This whole idea of focusing on the stolen election just tells me that it's just another reinforcement of the idea that President Trump cares about himself more than he cares about the people in America. If he cared about the people in America, he'd be talking about, instead of saying that, oh, the economy's great, look at the stock market, he'd be talking about the struggles that the American people are facing, including among his own party. And I don't believe he's doing it. And I think he's losing a lot of his party base, although his hardcore MAGA supporters, he can do nothing wrong and they'll always be behind him. But all he has to do is lose 10% of his base. And I think it's over for him and the party.
Well, I think that the Democrats will win the House. I think that the Democrats have a shot in the Senate. But I will say this also to you. If the Republicans can convince the American people that the Democratic Socialist element of the Democratic Party are really a bunch of communists, I think that they will have a chance of really coming very close to holding on to the House and to the Senate. Now, a lot of people will say to me, people nowadays don't think anything about communism. But to me, older people still get concerned about communism. You and I lived through the Cold War, okay?
Yeah.
We knew what it was to hide underneath our desk. Now, we may not think of it anymore, but if the Republicans keep hounding and pushing upon it, I think it might come back to people. And some younger people might start getting interested in it. I think that's really about the only hope the Republicans can have if they can sort of fight the Cold War all over again. We'll see what happens.
I think those issues could be a legitimate concern, but not for the 10 to 20% of people he's going to lose. Because there are a lot of people that voted for Trump who inherently were in the middle and didn't really like the guy. They just disliked the other person more. I didn't like
Right.
Kamala Harris. I was disappointed in Biden. I didn't like Hillary Clinton. I consider myself a centrist who can go Democratic and Republican based on that. And I think that there's probably at least 20% of the voters who are right in the middle who are going to leave him because of what he's doing, and what he's saying. And regardless of those issues, it won't mean as much as they're concerned for him. But I
Well,
just have one. Go ahead, Bill.
go ahead.
I was
No,
just going to
I
say,
just want to say, I hope that the House or the Senate, one or the other, does go Democratic because I believe we need a check on Trump, an
yeah.
official check by the United States, House of Representatives or the United States Senate. That's all.
And we were going to talk about the Iran war, and instead of carrying that into the second segment, all I want to say about the Iran war is it flip flops every week. So whatever I say today, it's not going to have any meaning tomorrow, and it'll change. This war has gone back and forth like a ping pong ball. I think it's damaging to our country. Not the goal of taking out the ayatollahs and these crazy mullahs. I don't think that's the goal. I think the impact has been very negative on us, and it hasn't been managed properly. And I think it's doing us damage. And I'm concerned about it, but I have no idea what's going to happen with that war. This is all politics being manipulated by Trump.
Well, I can't disagree with that. I'm much stronger for the war and getting rid of the regime than you perhaps are. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I agree with you. The war by Israel, Netanyahu, and by the United States of America has been conducted very, very poorly. Once we got in it, we shouldn't have had any hesitation to whatever the cost was going to be, take out that leadership, get rid of them once and for all. That's why we said we went to war, to get rid of them, because they've been after us for 47 years. Okay? Well, It's been very poor. And I agree with you. Right now, we're on the offensive. We're attacking them every night. We're blocking their ports. Who knows? Next week, Trump might be sitting down with whoever the new leader is in Tehran and saying, he's not such a bad guy. Maybe we can work this out. Gets a little disappointing.
Yeah, it's hard to undermine reckless leadership when the leadership we have is reckless. So
Right.
we'll see what happens. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we can talk about some of the local issues that we were going to discuss. We'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski. And as Ray just said, this is Two Guys on Politics.
And we're talking about, Bill, there was a hearing last night, and this is Wednesday that we're taping, in Bolingbrook by the Illinois Commerce Commission to hear the views of the public on another rate increase that was introduced by Illinois American Water, which is a subsidiary of American Water, which provides water to most of the state of Illinois, mostly outside of Chicago and Cook County. Their water costs 4 to 5 times more than what you and I pay for water in the area where we live. In fact, I think that even outside of Cook County, there's some areas that are not served by Illinois American Water. But Illinois American Water is a symbol of the problem with utilities. Their parent company logged a net profit of $1 billion last year, $1 billion the year before. They're actually generating profits above and beyond paying the employees, providing the service, and paying their administrative staff. Their CEOs and administrators are making $2 to $3 million in salaries and benefits. And every 2 years, they come in and ask for a maybe 100 or $200 million rate hike that has pushed the price of water so high that when I went to that Bolingbrook hearing last night, that was hosted by the Illinois Commerce Commission and called by the Illinois Commerce Commission, there were maybe 50, 60 people, seniors mainly, who said, I can't take a bath every day anymore because it's too expensive. We can't wash our dishes anymore or wash our clothes as often as we would want to. And we are having trouble even cooking because the water has a terrible taste to it. And now they want to increase the water. It was so horrible to hear these people talk about what they're going through. And the hearing was so that the Illinois Commerce Commission would hear the complaints and then decide whether they should approve the latest increase that Illinois American Water wants to impose. The problem
Ray,
was,
Ray, let
go
me
ahead,
ask you a
Bill.
question.
Yes,
Where do
sir.
they get their supply of water from?
It comes from the city of Chicago through intermediaries like Oak Lawn, Bedford Park. I mean,
Okay.
those are not the problems. Those areas, these intermediary stations that move the water are not the problem. It's once it gets to Illinois American Water, they then control the price of the water and they break it down into like 50 different things. I mean, when you look at an Illinois American Water bill, it's like a math course trying to figure out what are they doing. The end result is there are some people that are paying $200 to $300 a month just for water. And Illinois American Water, if you never turned on the tap at your house, all right, you would still pay $100 just to have that service, even if you never use the water. To me, it's a problem. And there's no alternative. There's no competition. It's a monopoly. And worse, and the final thing, and I don't mean to dominate this conversation, Bill, but I want to give you the basis for it. There are 5 members of the Illinois Commerce Commission. They each get paid $200,000 a year. They're appointed by the governor, all 5 of them appointed by Governor Pritzker. I don't have their names because they never show up to any of the meetings. They were not at the meetings last night. Instead, they paid an administrative judge to listen to these people and then give them a summary report. So the Illinois Commerce Commission never hears the pain that these people are going through, and yet they're the ones that are going to make the decision on whether the increase should go through or not. It's just a bad
unfortunately,
system.
we've had trouble with in the state of Illinois for a long time. Whether the Democrats were in power or the Republicans were in power, people have complained about these utilities that are monopolies that frankly do whatever they want to do, and they usually do it for their own benefit and for their own salaries. The only way to change this, though, Ray, and I don't really know what the solution is, but we would have to get the legislature to change the whole process and get the governor on board to do so. Now, Pat Quinn was an individual who was very much interested in this. And I would suggest, that maybe we try to get Pat Quinn on and he could talk to us and he probably would have some ideas on how this situation could be turned around. Now, I'm not the greatest fan of Pat's, okay, because
I'm
of
not
some of the
either.
things he's tried to do over the course of the years. Okay, but
I'm like you.
he usually knows his way around this stuff. And I think this is a serious problem. And nowadays, when people are hurting so much with the price of food, the price of gas, if we could help them on a utility bill, I think it would really be very good for all citizens of Illinois. I mean, how expensive can that water get to be when you take it out of Lake Michigan? It's free in Lake Michigan.
Yes.
You could go down there with a cup and keep scooping it out with the cup. Wouldn't cost you a penny. Now I realize that's not realistic. But the point is, I think it seems like they're charging you for an entity that is free in the first place. Now I realize you got to pump it out, you got to transport it. That all costs money. But It seems to me that there's never been a true investigation of what the real costs are. And this is not only for water. I think this is for gas. I think this is for electricity also. Whoever had the idea of establishing monopolies for the benefit of the general public a long time ago, I'm sure thought they were doing the right thing, but I'm afraid it hasn't quite worked out that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the problems is the fact that one, it's a monopoly, and two, though it's the ICC doesn't do it, in my opinion, doesn't do its job. They should have been at the hearing. They get paid money
Absolutely.
and benefits. They should have been there. They've never been to these public hearings. And one of their excuses was, well, it would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. And I said, how could that be a violation? You called the meeting 6 weeks ago. You set the meeting. You should be there. So I think that they continue to make excuses about what they should do and what they should not do. And it really bothers me. The other point is that it's not the delivery of the water until it gets past the Oak Lawn, Bedford Park, and these other places. You got to pay for the amount of pipes and everything, obviously the maintenance and things. But the cost, once it gets past that and into the hands of Illinois American Water, the cost increases almost 5 to 10 times. And this is run by a company that is buying up all the other water utilities. Illinois American Water just bought up Aqua Illinois and Aqua America, which is another one of these very expensive water services in western counties in northern Illinois and in southern Illinois. It's just terrible, with what they're doing, and they're unresponsive. My suggestion, Bill, and I wonder if we mentioned this, I think once before, but I think they should be nationalized in the sense that government should take over these companies. They should eliminate or at least prevent a utility company from showing a net profit. They should generate the money they need to cover their costs, and they should also limit the salaries of these executives. Nobody should be at a utility company making more than $300,000-$400,000 a year. I mean, I get it. The CEO, 400,000 or 500,000, it's a lot of work. I could get that, but not $2, $3 million. This one company, $24 million for their top CEOs. They want 142 million in increases. This year they made 900 million in profits. You want 142 million in increases? Take it out of your profits.
Well, I don't think it should be nationalized. I think what it should be is we should do away with these monopolies, and the state of Illinois, in our case, should run the water supply, the electric supply, the gas supply, okay?
Right,
Because then we can really pinpoint the responsibility on what the costs are, who was responsible for the costs, and we can vote these people out of office. Right now, these people are phantoms. But if it was done by the state of Illinois, you know, now some people are going to complain, oh, you're going to create all these patronage jobs, for
right.
the state of Illinois. Well, we don't have too much patronage left at all. Those jobs could all be made civil service. The employees probably would not make as much money as they may very well make now with the monopolies. But to me, that's the way to go. Have the state government run all these services.
But I think that even if government took over and they created patronage jobs, it would still be far less than what Illinois American Water is charging these people. Their bills would be half the amount, even with all the problems that we often accuse government of doing when they run these things. But you're absolutely right. And I think that's where the problem is. The problem rests with Governor Pritzker and the Illinois Commerce Commission. They are not doing their job. And I think the Citizen Utility Board called Illinois American Water a rate hike machine. That's their goal, that's their purpose, and their profits show that. It's terrible. So, but we'll
Well,
see more of that.
I don't want to just blame Pritzker and the Democrats because it's been going on for years and years and years. Even
Yeah,
when big governor for life, Big
Bill
Jim
Thompson,
Thompson
right?
was governor, it went on. And he used
Yes.
to campaign every 4 years against the utility companies. But every time he got into office, he never seemed to have the power to do much about it.
It's depressing, though, isn't it? That the officials that we need, I mean, we do blame Illinois American Water, but all they're doing is taking advantage of a system where nobody really holds their feet to the fire at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is the problem. So maybe you're right. I mean, something needs to be done in the legislature. But the other point is Illinois American Water has a huge political donation trail that go and what do the people have? They can barely pay their water bills. How are they going to donate money to a
Our legislators uh, permitted to invest in this water company?
I I don't know, but they do have stockholders in that water company, and I think they do that with all the utilities. This is a very complicated area, I think, for anybody to really truly understand. And they do. Illinois American Water did basically say that they do hand out profits to their stockholders. And I'm thinking, who's the really important stockholders? It's you and me, not the people that invest in the company to exploit the homeowners and the taxpayers. It really is a sad situation.
Are there any more meetings coming up like this in the future?
No, and that's the problem. The way it's set up, every 2 years, the utility companies like Illinois American Water can propose an increase. It then takes a year before they actually review it. It gets to a public hearing 6 months later. And this hearing that we had yesterday in Bolingbrook, we won't hear anything for 6 months about it from the Illinois Commerce Commission. So by the time it's almost like rigged so that the emotion and anger dissipates before they slam you with the increases. The whole system really needs to be changed, and it's disappointing that it's not. So All right, Bill, we got a couple minutes left, maybe about 5 minutes to talk about the fourth congressional district, where a friend of ours, Chris Getty, is running.
Yes, he is.
There's several. He's the mayor of Lyons, and there are three other Hispanics. One of them is Patty Garcia, who is the rigged candidate that was pushed in by suddenly retiring Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia. And then Alderman Sigcho Lopez is in it, and a woman named Mayra Macias, who filed petitions and is Hispanic, very popular. And she collected, I think, something like almost 11,000 signatures. As independents. The threshold to get on are just tremendous. But Garcia's staff orchestrated the petition challenge that went downstate to Springfield, and a Springfield judge threw her off the ballot, saying that 700 of your petitions were no good. And that was done by his new chief of staff that Congressman Garcia appointed. He was the principal in challenging those petitions. And Garcia still has the candidate who was his chief of staff, still getting paid as his chief of staff, who's running for Congress. I don't know, in the old days, Bill, when I was at City Hall, this would have made for a million Mike Royko columns about what's wrong with politics, and something
Now,
that I
Ray,
would have written.
let me ask you one question here. Now, is this the Chuy Garcia that was the great reformer?
Yes,
Entire political career, he was
yes,
always against the establishment, always
yes,
against the system. He was always with the people. Let the
yes,
people have a voice. Is this the
yes,
same guy?
yes. He rode that wave like Roy Rogers on Flickr, Trigger,
He sure
on
did.
Trigger. And once he got what he wanted, he completely flipped. Because you know what? Chuy Garcia was an alderman. You knew him. I knew him. He was a decent person. I liked him. He always seemed to stand up for what was right, speaking out against the machine and the
Yeah.
burn, I guess, and then to be this way, it just like wow, it's a sad turn for him that I think really casts a cloud over what people are going to remember about him. I think he's ruined his legacy. He's really hurt himself with this.
Yeah, well, I would concur with that. He's a little bit like our friend that just passed away, the man in the Senate, a flip flopper, when it was advantageous to him.
That's true. That is true. So it is going to be interesting. I still believe that Chris Getty, and in all fairness, I do some media for him. I love the guy. I only work for people that I like. I don't work for people I don't like. I really like Chris Getty. I think that he can bring change to this district and get away from some of this politics. I've seen him, and I think he's really a principled and smart guy who can address the issues as good as or better than some of the people that we have today in politics. So I'm hopeful for him. And I still think he can win regardless of how Chuy Garcia manipulates this to eliminate the Hispanic voters.
Well, I think that you will find that there will be another Hispanic person running whose petitions will be challenged and who will be knocked off the ballot. I'm sure
Yeah.
that Chuy Garcia would like to see his candidate one-on-one against
Yes.
Chris Getty because it's a heavily Hispanic district. And unfortunately,
66%.
ethnic groups usually vote for themselves. I mean, I'll be the first one to say to you that people often voted for me because my name ended in SKI, okay? They were Polish. They liked the fact I was Polish. They voted for me. In fact, they used to vote for all the SKIs, all the WICZs. Now we vote for all the rest of the Democrats.
Yeah,
That was,
well, I always admired you because you were always open and honest when I was a reporter at Chicago City Hall, and you were always straightforward when you can publicly speak about something and when you couldn't publicly speak about something. You always addressed the issues. You were always honest. You were always accurate. I never got flip-flop like I did with Rich Daley when he told me he was going to run for clerk of the circuit court, and then at the press conference announced he was going to run for the state's attorney's office and use me. That really bothered me. But yes, I think though that the one factor that Chuy Garcia is really not thinking about is it is a 66% Hispanic district, but Hispanics have the lowest voter turnout of anybody. And in today's atmosphere, with all that focus on illegal immigrants, a lot of Hispanics are not going to vote because it's their families that mean more. And I think the very successful Hispanic families really don't want to be around that type of radicalism that Jesus Garcia has always championed. And I think that they want a mainstream elected official who's going to make property taxes, the security of their families and their homes, a priority. And I think that's what Getty's going to do. And I hope he manages to keep that focus on that.
I think that's very true. Excuse me. And I remember when I was still in Congress, we had the situation on, amnesty for people who came here illegally. And so many of the people who were opposed to that were people of Mexican, Spanish heritage who had come here legally, built a life here. They were very unhappy that all these illegals were coming in here and making people look, at them. Are you legal? Are you really an American citizen? So I think that could be utilized in the campaign by Chris Getty. I think that would give him a better shot, but we'll see.
All right, Bill. Any other topics? Any other thoughts coming up? I'm sure we're going to be talking about President Trump's comments about the stolen election. I mean, when he dominates TV, how do we avoid that, right?
You can't.
You can't. So, all right, I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.